Have you ever been typing an email, you're totally in the zone, and then, boom, that little squiggly red line pops up under a word you swear you know how to spell? Suddenly, you're questioning everything, right? Well, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to demystify English spelling with 5 simple rules that will make you a much more confident writer. And let's be real, the frustration is totally valid. It's not you. You see, English isn't really one language. It's more like a mashup of German, French, Latin, and a whole bunch of others, all borrowing words and kind of smashing them together. That's why the rules can feel so chaotic, but trust me, there is a logic hiding in there. And that's exactly what we're going to do in this explainer. We are going to build a powerful toolkit for your brain. By the end of this, you'll have 5 super reliable tools to help you tackle even the trickiest words with way more confidence. Okay, let's jump right in.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll take a quick look at the challenge itself. Then, we'll build a solid foundation with 2 key rules. From there, we'll conquer the tricky world of suffixes with 3 more. And finally, we'll wrap it all up in your very own spelling rulebook.
All right, so before we get into the rules, let's just quickly set the stage here and get a handle on what we're really up against.
First up, we've got 2 foundational rules. I want you to think of these as the absolute building blocks that are going to support everything else you learn about spelling.
You probably know this one. It's a classic for a reason. It's one of the very first spelling rules a lot of us learn, and it's a fantastic place to start. So, rule number 1, I before E except after C. This simple little rhyme is a total game changer. Just by looking for the letter C, you can instantly solve a super common spelling puzzle. So on the left, you see I before E is the default. But when a C enters the picture, like you see on the right, the E just takes the lead. It's a tiny detail with a massive impact. Okay, let's move on to our second foundational rule, a little concept that's often called the magic E. This little letter is basically a silent powerhouse. It just sits there at the end of a word, doesn't make a sound, but it completely changes the sound of the vowel that comes before it. And this shows you exactly how it works. So you start with pin. It becomes pine. At becomes 8. You can literally hear the magic happen. That silent E on the end reaches back and tells that first vowel to say its name, stretching a short sound into a long one. Pretty cool, right? Now that we've got our foundation set, let's talk about suffixes. These next 3 rules are going to give you a really clear system for adding endings to words, which is one of the most common places spelling mistakes happen. So, what even is a suffix? Well, it's just an ending we tack on to a root word. Think about it. Take the word play. With suffixes, you can get player, playing, playful. The possibilities just explode. That's why getting these rules down is so incredibly powerful. Our third rule is all about knowing when you should double that final letter before adding a suffix. And this rule applies to a special kind of word called a CVC word, which, you guessed it, stands for consonant, vowel, consonant. CVC words are usually short, one-syllable words that follow that simple pattern. Consonant, vowel, consonant. You know, words like win, pin, or bag. Just being able to spot this pattern is the key that unlocks this entire doubling rule. As you can see right here, the formula is actually pretty simple. When you have a CVC word, like win, and you add a suffix that starts with a vowel, like you double that final N to get winner. So why do we do this? Well, it protects that short vowel sound. Without the second N, it would look like whiner, which our brains would pronounce with a long I sound because of our magic E rule. See how they connect? All right, on to rule number 4. This one tackles another classic spelling trap. What do you do when a word ends in Y and you want to add an ending? The most important thing to look at here is the letter right before the Y. If it's a consonant, like the P in happy, the Y changes to an I to make happier. But if it's a vowel, like the O in employ, the Y stays right where it is. This is to avoid creating a weird-looking double vowel. It's all about making the words look and sound right. And for our 5th and final rule, we're circling back to our good friend, the silent E. This rule tells us when to keep that E and when to ditch it before we add a suffix. Here's a really easy way to remember it. If the suffix starts with a vowel, the E takes a hike. If the suffix starts with a consonant, the E stays put. So for love plus ing, that's a vowel suffix, the E gets dropped for loving. But for care plus full, a consonant suffix, the E stays for careful. It's just to avoid a big pileup of vowels. And just like that, you've done it. You have built your own personal spelling rulebook. So let's do a quick recap of what's inside.
Here they are, all in one place. I before E, the sound-changing magic E, doubling up on those CVC words, the Y to I switch, and knowing when to drop the final E. These 5 simple rules are basically your new spelling superpowers. They're going to help you navigate the wild world of English with so much more confidence and precision.
You know, the author of our source material puts it perfectly with this simple hope. I hope these tips were helpful. Because look, the goal isn't to become a walking dictionary, it's to have a reliable framework that's going to guide you correctly like 90% of the time.
And of course, because it's English, it loves to keep us on our toes. So there are always going to be a few exceptions. Think of these 5 rules as your 90% solution. For anyone who wants to go for that 100% mastery, the original source actually has a great worksheet to explore all those tricky outliers.
And with that, your toolkit is complete. So now that you've mastered the logic behind this stuff, what's one spelling trap that you know you're going to avoid from now on? I'd love to know which one of these rules was a real light bulb moment for you.